So the news has hotted up quickly around this one, and it looks like we might have a bit of a bargain on our hands. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And as a surprise to absolute no one, we're talking about attacking midfielders today. Chelsea transfer news has been dominated with talks of versatile attacking midfielders over the last few weeks, and today is no exception. But in particular, we're going to be focusing on all of the news surrounding Xavi Simons. So we have been looking at a few targets over the last week or so. Morgan Rogers seemed to be the absolute top target for the most part, and there was a little flurry of news about Eberechi Eze that kind of got me excited because I really like the look of him. And over the last few days we've been seeing stuff about Xavi Simons as well. Now today in particular, or at least the time that I am recording this video, the Simons news seems to be hotting up. And I guess that can just be explained by the money side of it, right? Morgan Rogers is probably the top target, but he is 80 mil and I can't imagine Aston Villa are going to budge. They need to make serious cash and he's easily one of their best players, so they're not going to lose him without getting a pretty penny for it. The Eberechi Eze news had me, like I say, very excited, but I can understand why we've kind of started to cool off that one. If the reports are to be believed, then Eze wants a fair chunk of change for his wage. And again, I just guess that makes sense because the difference between Eze and everyone else that we're looking at is age, right? Eze is entering his prime and has decidedly less time left in his career. He's looking at the next 5 or 6 years, whereas the other guys we're looking at have got another decade in front of them. So if Eze is going to make this big move from Crystal Palace right now, then it makes sense that he wants to get paid for it. And as much as I like Eze, I don't back breaking the wage structure and potentially causing disharmony in the ranks, right, just to get him on board. I don't think it's worth it. But Xavi Simons seems to tick a lot of the same creative boxes that these other two guys do, and the big box he ticks for the brass is the money. So the price floating around for him that I've seen is 50 million euros, right? And that's like 42 million pounds, 43 million pounds. So in today's age, that is a bargain if he turns out to be as good as we hope he is. To see if I think he's worth it, I've done a little deep dive into the stats of Xavi Simons. I've created some little graphics and we're just going to go through it and see what we all think together. But first, guys, if you are enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honor of liking or sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so this isn't a comparison video like I've done before, but it is a stats video, and I generally like to start these videos with heat maps. I feel like a heat map is just a great visual way to get an idea of where a player is going to play, who he's potentially going to have competition with, and who he might tread on the toes of. So this is Xavi Simons' heat map. What we can instantly see here is that he's a left-sided attacking midfielder. Lots of red, generally up and down the left, not going quite as far as like a Jadon Sancho or probably a Jamie Gittins would, you know, really getting up towards that top of the byline, and clearly a massive concentration of red in that left-sided half space where he will like to drift in to try and create chances and score goals. But a decent amount of red everywhere, to be honest, so it's interesting, right? I did recently do a tactical breakdown about Morgan Rogers. Go and check that video out if you haven't already. And what that showed us was really, really interesting, right? Because Morgan Rogers spent most of his time playing as a centre attacking midfielder or starting on the left wing. But the biggest patch of red on his heat map was in that right-sided half space, that little pocket on the right just behind the striker. So that showed you whether he was starting from the centre attack or the left wing, he was always trying to get himself drifting over to be in that right-sided half space. Now, as much as I am a big fan of Morgan Rogers and would love to see him on the team, that presents an obvious issue. Because, oh yeah, who else is it that we've got that really likes to play in that right-sided half space in the Chelsea team? Oh yeah, it's Cole Palmer. So for all his wicked qualities, that was the one thing that I saw about Morgan Rogers that I was like, oh, okay, so does that mean that we're going to see Palmer drifting out more to the left to compensate? Or is Morgan Rogers going to have to learn a bit more of a new role? But as we can see with Xavi Simons, that wouldn't be the case. Xavi Simons obviously really likes the left side. That's where he feels comfortable. That's where all of the red on his heat map is. So we could play him and Cole Palmer as left wing centre attack or dual 10s, and they wouldn't necessarily be tripping over each other trying to get in those same positions. So that is probably what I found the most interesting about his heat map, is it seems to instantly complement the likes of Cole Palmer rather than having to make tactical tweaks to make sure we can try and fit everyone in. The other slightly interesting thing is you can see in those top two corners there that there is a lot of red, so he is clearly the corner taker for Red Bull Leipzig, which is good, you know. I don't necessarily think we have a solid, wicked corner taker. Enzo Fernandez takes them quite a lot, and I don't know, we don't really score very many goals from those kind of corners or set pieces or stuff, so maybe having a really confident corner taker could make a little bit of a difference there, but it's an arbitrary difference and not one I'm going to go in on. So there it is, there's the heat map, and like I said, man, for me, heat maps are just a nice instant way to be like, oh, okay, he's kind of going to play there. There's obviously a lot more to it than that, and in order to go into the rest of that, I have designed a little graphic. Oh, I love making a graphic, me. If you've spent any time on my channel by now, you know that I love making a graphic. So let's take a look at Xavi Simons' stats in the 24-25 Bundesliga season and see how he did. And as always, we start with appearances. Now, he made 25 appearances, 23 of those were starts. I think it's a 36-game season in the Bundesliga, isn't it? Because there's 18 teams. So although that's not the same, Morgan Rogers and Cole Palmer both made like 37, appearances for both of their teams. Xavi Simons either isn't as trusted as that as a first teamer or had some injury issues. I'll be completely honest, I haven't deep dived into that specific element, but either way, 25 games is easily enough of a chunk of a league season to tell you how good a player is and that he is ultimately trusted by his manager. Next up, we're going to get into everyone's favourite stat, it's XG. And I know, XG is not the be all or end all, right? And I never think it is. I just think it helps start to tell the story. Whether a player outperforms or underperforms XG isn't the absolute arbiter of whether they're a good player or not, but generally there is a trend to say if you're outperforming your expected stats, then you're one of the top players. And in this regard, Simons is cool. He had an expected goal return of 8.07 goals and he managed 10. So not by a million miles, but he did outperform his XG last season. So good, we like that. 10 goals in 25 games is actually really good as well when you think A, their season is shorter, and B, he didn't play as many games as some of our other players did. He obviously outperformed the likes of Madueke and Jadon Sancho last year, but also that has to be juxtaposed against the fact that it was in the Bundesliga, and Chelsea are no strangers to players doing really well in the Bundesliga and then coming here and flopping. But it is a little bit different this time, right? Because, Timo Werner and Kai Havertz were scoring like bags and bags and bags and hatfuls of goals, and we were expecting them to come to the Prem and do that. Xavi Simons isn't the team's focal point for scoring goals, right? It's not as much of an expectancy for him to come and bag hatfuls of goals. At the end of the day, if he comes to the Prem as, a left winger, centre attacking midfielder, and he scores somewhere between 8 and 10 goals, if his creative output is good, then that's still a good return. And talking of his creative output, let's also have a little look at the assists numbers. So again, I will start with the expected assists. Now, he did actually underperform just a touch. He had an expected assists of 7.03 and he managed 6 assists. 6 assists. God, that's really a weird one to say a lot. There's lots of S's. But yeah, still 6 assists, not bad at all. Still better than the likes of Jadon Sancho and Noni Madueke, albeit in the Bundesliga. But the stats that I'm about to get into next tell you that there is probably a little bit more to it than just those numbers, right? So being primarily a creative player, one really important stat to look at is key passes per 90. Xavi Simons managed 2.14 key passes per 90 in the Bundesliga last season, and across Europe's top 5 leagues, that puts him in the top 15. So he's not absolutely up there with the gods of passing, but he's definitely close enough for a 22-year-old to think, you can probably get even better. And things get even more interesting when we start to look at his dribbles per 90. 3.51 put him in the top 10 in Europe, and what we're looking at is a really good, confident player when it comes to key passes and dribbling, and ultimately being a creative player that makes things happen. So we might not have got all the goals and got all of the assists, but with those sorts of dribbling and passing stats, if he's able to get the ball to the likes of Cole Palmer and Joao Pedro, then, that's probably going to turn into higher numbers, isn't it? And the last one is he has a pass accuracy of 83%, which is better than a lot of the players in our team last season. So again, this all has to be juxtaposed with the fact that Red Bull Leipzig finished 7th in the Bundesliga last term, which isn't bad, right? It's not bad, but it's not good enough to be like, they were not exactly a Champions League team last season. But at the end of the day, we bought Liam Delap from Ipswich and they just got relegated, so can't be too picky. So the next thing I'm going to get onto about Xavi Simons is something that I think is really interesting about all of these versatile, creative attacking midfielders that we're looking at, and it's their positional breakdown. Now, the one with Xavi Simons comes with a bit of a caveat, right? So the formation that Red Bull Leipzig played last season was a 4-2-2-2. So in terms of just seeing him on a starting lineup, he's going to feature on that left side behind the 2 strikers, right? So the way that his positional breakdown is calculated is essentially what he was told to do during the game. Now, I got these stats from SofaScore and I was like, hold on a second, if he plays in a 4-2-2-2, how can you even break him down? But it turns out it is essentially between what he's being asked to do in a game, right? And that's largely based on the heat map of the individual games. So regardless of him starting on that left side behind the left-sided striker, his manager will have been asking him to play as either an attacking midfielder or a left winger, and that is quite a fluid formation that they had. So he kind of covered both of those roles. So they had him down as making 14 appearances as an attacking midfielder. So essentially that was what he was asked to do most of the time. And his heat maps dictated that he started as a left winger 6 times. So 20 of his 25 appearances, he is basically a left winger or a left-sided central attacking midfielder, and is very comfortable, as we saw in his heat map, in that half space on the left. He also featured as a right winger 3 times and a central midfielder twice, but obviously the deeper role is probably not the best one for him. Although again, you can see on the heat map, he doesn't mind getting stuck in a little bit. Clearly, he kind of gravitates more towards that attacking role. So it makes for interesting reading. It's a difficult one, right? Because I always find it hard to look at players from other leagues now, because as Chelsea fans, we've just been burned so many times. It's one of the reasons that I'm really happy we went in for the likes of, Liam Delap and Joao Pedro, because they've got Premier League experience. And another one of the reasons I was really interested in the likes of Eberechi Eze and Morgan Rogers, because we know that they can do it in the Prem. But Xavi Simons is a really, really young player, and he has got a lot of experience because he's been playing for a really long time. So looking at Xavi Simons now, and a lot of the other attacking midfielders that we've been looking at in isolation, kind of is starting to make me think we might be heading towards some sort of tactical shift next season. And that is largely because what we know about Enzo Maresca is that his wingers hug the byline, and that's kind of the be-all and end-all of the system, right? We had a little look at Jadon Sancho's heat map a little while ago, and it's just stuck to the left all of the time. So we've just obviously bought Jamie Gittins, and I imagine that's the kind of role he's going to play, that classic Maresca left-sided winger role. But to say we've been linked with the likes of Xavi Simons and Morgan Rogers and Eberechi Eze, who are much more versatile left-sided players who kind of favour that attacking midfield role a little bit more, maybe we are actually going to see something different next season. Maybe there just aren't that many good, really direct byline hugging wingers available on the market at the moment, or maybe the likes of Rodrigo are just a bit too expensive, for example. So the fact we're going in so hard on this kind of versatile guy is like, initially I kind of justified it as, this is just backup for Cole Palmer, isn't it? But you're not going to spend this amount of money on someone that's just backup for Cole Palmer. I think Enzo Maresca actually might be looking to evolve the way that we play a little bit in the next season. So do I like the look of Xavi Simons? Yes I do. I think he looks like a good player. There is a little bit of tentativeness, isn't there, because he's a Bundesliga player and we've been burned so many times, but we have already dipped into the Bundesliga for Jamie Gittins, so it's not crazy to think that we might do it again. And at the end of the day, if it's 40 mil, yeah, okay, man, that's a good deal. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, we paid like 70 odd mil for Kai Havertz, and we paid 50 mil plus for Timo Werner. So this would be less of an investment than they were. He fits the profile in terms of being a creative, versatile attacking midfielder. He's young, he's not going to be super expensive, and it does just kind of make sense. And at the end of the day, we do still have the likes of Jamie Gittins as well. So, most of this has been based on how is it going to be if Xavi Simons starts for us for all these games, but maybe that's not what's going to happen. Either way, I think we're going to see the end of this little flurry of news for an attacking midfielder soon, and as I'm going to get into in another video soon, I think we're going to start focusing on other targets. So that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up there. Tell me what you think of Xavi Simons. Do you think, yes, he's the guy? Would you rather just pay the money and go for a Morgan Rogers? Are you sad that Eze's maybe been priced out of a move as well? Or do you think that it's ultimately redundant because you really back someone like Jamie Gittins and you think he's just going to come in and make that spot his own? And the thing that we don't often talk about in this situation, to be fair, is that maybe Neto finds himself out on that left side a lot, because maybe a certain Esteval Willian can come in and make that right side his own as well. Unlikely, but possible. So I'm going to keep my ear to the ground for more Chelsea news as ever. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're having a wicked day. I can't wait to catch up with you very soon. Take it easy. Peace.